Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 11 starts now.
Western Florida bracing for a monster of a storm. Exact Track 4D radar tracking the path that Hurricane Idalia as the Category 2 storm heads for land. Thanks for being here with us. I'm Kimberly Gill.
I'm Devin Skillian. Idalia gaining momentum. In fact, a Category 2 maybe just for a little while longer. Going to make landfall tomorrow morning along Florida's northwest coast. Right now, moving as a Category 2. By the time it makes landfall in the early morning hours, the bet is that it will then be a Category 3. Winds forecasted to reach up to 125 miles an hour. National Hurricane Center warning of life-threatening, record-setting storm surges that could be up to 15 feet. Forewarned weather team's been tracking the storm throughout the night.
Kim Adams joins us now with a look at the latest models. Kim.
Well, the National Hurricane Center will put out its advisory any minute now. It's still not in yet, but that will determine whether or not Idalia is a 2 or a 3. I suspect it's already a 3. In fact, as I'm looking at the eye wall here, there's a very distinctive eye wall now, and there's been some rebuilding of that eye wall, indicating that it is now strengthening. The outer bands are affecting Bradenton, Tampa, even down into Port Charlotte, which is where they got hit the hardest from Hurricane Ian back in September, just under a year ago. So we are looking for this to strengthen, become about a Hurricane Category 3, and we're expecting it to go in somewhere around the Big Bend area. So here's Tallahassee, and here's where we're talking about right there. That's called the Big Bend, and unfortunately, they have never seen a hurricane this large, so they're not really sure what impact it's going to have, with the exception that they know it is going to be catastrophic for places like Cedar Key, only 10 feet above sea level. So winds are broad, the distinctive eye wall becoming more and more cohesive, more intensified as it moves closer to the coast. So we're still waiting on the update. Right now, the latest update has winds at 110 miles per hour, but within the next at least 2 to 3 hours, it will continue to strengthen, perhaps as high as a Category 4. That's not out of the question. The good news is it's moving at a pretty decent forward speed. So the least amount of time it stays over water, that's the better, because it won't strengthen off those warm waters. But regardless, this is going to be a historic major hurricane that is going to affect not only parts of Florida, but also parts of Georgia and the Carolinas as well. So we're going to break down what's going to happen and what's ahead for Florida and the Carolinas coming up in just a few minutes.
Okay, Kim, our other top story, parents will finally see the outcome of a report into what happened at Oxford High School the day a student opened fire. Getting to a point where a detailed investigative report will be released has taken 2 years.
The school board has been told it is going to be released to the board and parents at the same time on or before October 30th. Mara McDonald in Oxford tonight, still hearing lingering doubts and questions about this whole process. Mara.
And those questions really depend on whether you're a school board member. In that case, you have questions about how this whole contract was conceived. If you're a parent, you wonder if you're ever going to get any real answers.
It was made very clear early on that Guidepost was going to have the final say on the report.
Before the Board of Education was a letter which was supposed to provide clarity about the upcoming release of the third-party investigation into the Oxford High School shooting. But board members wanted more than what they saw on that paper and asked for greater clarity on items like scope of the investigation. But the even bigger issue was how this contract was pulled together in the first place.
I did not see this contract, and I'm sure there's people that would say that I'm a liar, but I am not.
Some on the school board described this process as messy, to the point that they'd like an outside legal opinion on how it's been structured. Former school board president Tom Donnelly, who resigned during this process, had a lot to say.
And I've offered to people on this board to talk to you. Open up my emails. Give me access to my emails. I know why the contract the way it is, and so do 2 other board members who have forgotten. If you could throw me under the bus and remember that I am a man of integrity, not like Heather you have said about me and Corey. I fought like hell to make sure that was done right.
Parents are the ones who pushed and pushed for an outside investigation, which at first the board at the time resisted. Now, parents wonder whether what they'll get after all of this will be nothing but a bunch of eyewash.
You've had parents here for a year and a half screaming about the integrity of this report. What part of every single one of you, new or old board member, didn't say, I want to see that contract?
One thing to note, this report is going to be released to the public and to the school board at exactly the same time, and there will only be one report. The district isn't getting anything supplemental. We are in Oxford. I'm Mara McDonald, Local 4.
Mara, thank you. And the other issue top of mind for parents in Oxford was news that a teenager in Maryland has been arrested for making threats to shoot up Oxford High School. The Oakland County Sheriff's Department says a 17-year-old made threats to 3 14-year-old students as well as an adult. The teen later confessed to police after being interviewed. The mother of one of those students told the school board tonight communication and transparency about this needed to be a whole lot better.
You guys didn't ask me if I was okay. You didn't ask if my daughter was okay. You didn't ask how you could help.
The Oakland County Sheriff's Department says these threats do not have a connection to the shooting at the high school that claimed the lives of 4 students.
I am declaring today that I've selected Ford Motor Company as the pattern-setting target for Autotarks 2023.
Unifor President Lana Payne today taking Canadian auto workers down a very different path than the UAW for national auto talks. Payne telling GM and Stellantis negotiators to stand down until the Ford deal is reached, which is the long-standing tradition.
Let's compare and contrast. It comes as the UAW, of course, nears an important deadline in its contract negotiations. Business editor Rob Maloney takes a look at what the Unifor agreement might mean for talks on this side of the border. Rod.
The United Auto Workers and Unifor have long traded notes on their contract talks. This is the first year in many, though, that they've been negotiating at the same time. Yet for all of that unity, they've gone in very different directions. The UAW with a rhetorical scorched earth policy, whereas Unifor is looking for the best contract it can get as quickly as it can. Unifor President Lana Payne believes that they can make the September 18th deadline with Ford strike-free.
We've made progress with them in a week. We'll see how it goes, but obviously at this point in time, we wouldn't have selected Ford as a target if we didn't feel confident about where we could get to.
Ford of Canada HR VP Stephen Major obviously pleased Ford of Canada can now control its destiny. Quote, Ford of Canada and Unifor have a long track record of productive collaboration. For our industry, this is a time like no other, and success requires us to adapt. At Ford, we are committed to finding new approaches, new solutions, and the flexibility required to be successful in the short and long term in Canada, end quote.
They don't give a crap about our workers.
No such niceties from UAW President Shawn Fain.
So I'll tell you what I'm going to do with their proposal. I'm going to file it in its proper place.
Fain declaring the domestic 3 the target and may not pick one at all. Wayne State University union expert Dr. Merrick Masters calling Ford now a wild card here, too.
I think that this could very well be something that makes a bold statement about the role of Ford in these upcoming round in the United States.
There is worry across the industry Fain might just strike all of the domestic 3 at once. Masters believes Ford's traditional role of wanting to work with the UAW could hold sway.
I think that if they're in the position where they can strike a real good deal with Ford that they could use as a template to take to the others, that would be the kind of deal that I think they should take rather than going on strike just to send a message to the other 2.
There is a bit of a scheduling issue here, however. Unifor's strike deadline is September 18th, the UAW's September 14th at midnight. So should the UAW walk, it might have an impact across the river here. But when Lana Payne was asked about this, she said, you know what, we're just concerned about our talks. In Detroit, Rod Maloney, Local 4.
Yeah, all right, Rod. The United Auto Workers had no comment after Unifor announced its decision today. The U.S. national agreement talks continue along with UAW locals all over the country doing rallies and picket training because that September 14th deadline draws ever closer.
A rescue wrapped up today after a man and his 3-year-old grandson fell into Horseshoe Lake in Washtenaw County. The reports came in early this morning after their boat flipped over. The 3-year-old was wearing a life jacket and was rescued. The body of the 63-year-old man was found around 3 this afternoon. Neighbors say the 2 were staying in an Airbnb with family. The Sheriff's Department is putting out an important reminder tonight that you should always wear your life vest.
Dearborn Fire Chief under fire after being arrested for suspicion of drunk driving. 44-year-old Joseph Murray taken into custody around 2:45 this morning. Police say Murray was going 60 in a 45-mile-an-hour zone on Telegraph and swerving around the roadway. Officers said they did a field sobriety test and a blood test at the police department. Results of that blood test are pending. But the city's mayor, the office issuing a statement saying it is taking the situation seriously and that when more facts become clear, the appropriate action will be taken. Murray's been with the department since 2004, but became chief 11 years ago in 2012.